BurgerTime is a classic arcade game, a simple concept of layering burgers while avoiding enemies in an almost Pac-Man style gameplay with a twist. And despite being incredibly well received back during its 1982 release, just like many arcade classics, it struggled to push on and develop further out of its core gameplay once technology had gotten better. Despite attempts once or twice a decade, BurgerTime has kind of fallen by the wayside, which is a shame because, like I said, it's a classic. The latest and perhaps biggest push into the limelight for a modern audience is BurgerTime Party from Marvelous, the same publisher as Daemon X Machina and Fate X Stellar. Now surely that has got your attention. Before we get into it, just a heads up to our non-subscribers watching this video, we as a channel are going to be giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite and Link's Awakening to one of our subscribers when we hit 50,000. So if you're not subscribed already, then be sure to do so and spread the word so we can give it away sooner rather than later. Anyways, let's get on with it. The basic core gameplay of BurgerTime Party remains pretty much the same as always. Giant burger ingredients are separated vertically from each other, one bun at the bottom of the screen, another bun at the top with mouth-watering filling stuff somewhere in between. They are slabbed onto platforms and you need to walk over the layers in order to send it tumbling down to the next level to eventually create a burger of questionable cleanliness. Once all burgers or even hot dogs are complete, the level will be finished and you'll move on to the next one. It's not that simple, of course, as those evil discarded ingredients will be hunting you down every step of the way. There are only a small handful of variety of bad guys and they act in slightly different ways. For example, the sausage will charge you down like a madman, while the pickle will try to be a bit more tactical and circle around you via the myriad of ladders around. When in small numbers they are very easy to be avoided, but once they start ganging up on you and taking on you from every which direction, they can be pretty difficult to avoid. You do have defense though. Firstly, you have the trademark pepper spray, not quite like that. You have up to 3 in stock at a time, and the cloud that spurts out will stun the enemies for a short while, enough to make your escape at least. The best, most satisfying and most rewarding gameplay wise is to either squash enemies with burger layers above or make layers fall down while they are on it to send them tumbling with it, the latter of which is excellent for your scores as it can earn you big points. Now, points aren't always essential in parts of this game, but we'll get to that. Content-wise, BurgerTime Party is surprisingly comprehensive. It has multiple modes all wrung from this gameplay loop. For those who loved the pure arcade game, don't worry, there is just an arcade experience for you to keep improving your high score to show off on online rankings. I'm not sure if it's exactly like the original in terms of layouts, but it's essentially the same concept with a high difficulty. But for those who want something a bit more expansive, we also have a few more modes to satisfy your needs. First, there is a solo mode which, as you can tell by the name, is one player only and involves more puzzle-based levels rather than gunning for a high score, although the score does come into play a little. There are dozens of handmade level designs that tend to introduce a new concept or technique to the fold. Obviously, you still need to stack burgers and avoid enemies, but you need to try and plan your approach as solidly as possible in order to maximize your score for more stars at the end. Just completing the level haphazardly will grant you a measly 1 star, but if you're tactical enough, grouping enemies together, biding your time to strike, you can generate enough points to get 3 stars. It's not massively important to get as many stars as possible, but that's where the satisfaction lies. It's not about getting through, it's about perfecting. And I do appreciate that because it does add quite a lot of playtime to the game you could otherwise easily breeze through. Accompanying this style of gameplay, there is a mode called the Main Burger, which is very similar to the one described before, but this time it's more challenging, stages are bigger, and more importantly, 4 people can play together. You share lives, so you have to be careful, and chaos can be caused if people run around like headless chickens. It can be fun, but actually I feel this is still suited for a single player experience. The multiplayer feels more tacked on in this mode than anything else. And finally, we have the mode that multiplayer was actually meant for, Battle Burger, where up to 4 people can compete or work together against another team. It's basically chef versus food. That is an interesting enough concept, but really doesn't live up to its potential. Okay, hear me out on this one. You know I have no friends, so I only played with one other person, 1v1, not ideal of course, but even playing that showed me that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. Firstly, it's only 4 people, even though there are options for 4 on each team, so already your variations are slightly underwhelming, 1v3, 2v2 or lesser depending on how many players you have. Now we all know what the Switch is capable of, why not 8 people? The Switch can do that, I'm sure. Plus, there's no online, which is a pity. A 4v4 online thing could have been very good and fun, although at the minute, it's just a side diversion rather than anything you'd put some quality time into. If you're looking for a party game with an arcade feeling, then you definitely have to go with Astro Duel Deluxe. That's the pinnacle for me. So yeah, even though this is marketed as a party game, I'm still seeing its better side being the solo play personally. But this is coming from someone who is highly antisocial, so what do I know? Anyways, yeah, the single player is good, the amount of content is nice, although I'm into arcade score attacks, so your mileage may be slightly less if you're not into that. But anyways, it's looking good for BurgerTime Party in the gameplay department, right? Well, there is one really big oversight. Like a ridiculous oversight that I just can't fathom how it happened. You can't use the D-pad. That's right, it's analog stick or nothing. Honestly, when I went into the first level of this game and my chef wouldn't move, I thought my controller was busted. But no, you can't use the D-pad. They made a 2D game where you can't use the D-pad. That's mental. The analog stick just doesn't feel right, especially for those sharp directional changes going up and down ladders. It's just not ideal for this game. Okay, so maybe there's a patch coming. Maybe when the developers see this, they'll say, "Oh, bloody hell, I knew I forgot something," and then quickly add in support. But it's not in the version I'm playing, and I'm miffed as hell. It's not a deal breaker, it doesn't ruin the game, it's just baffling. Okay, rant over, I need a rest. Let's have a break. Okay, let's move on to the presentation, starting with the visuals. If I'm being honest, they are fine and serviceable. I know some may think that it looks like shovelware, but I mean really, what were they supposed to do with BurgerTime? It's BurgerTime. It's never had an iconic art style. You're not going to get super intense 3D graphics for it. Sure, they could have gone a bit more stylized and cultured like something Way Forward would produce, but it's BurgerTime. It pops off the screen nicely. I'm not a fan of the chef character design, but the food nasties chasing you around look pretty good. A bit more pizzazz and animation could have added to the presentation, but it's fine as it is. And pretty much the same story for the audio. There's even less for me to say here due to its slightly forgettable nature. And the best thing about it is that it just doesn't get in the way and it's not distracting from the action. Let's have a quick listen. On the eShop, BurgerTime Party is served up for £17.99 in the UK and $19.99 in the US. If I'm being honest, even though I think I would have gotten close to having my money's worth if I bought it myself, I really do think it could have done itself a favour by being cheaper. £5 or dollars less would have definitely made it a much more palatable purchase. I think there's enough content, but when it's reaching the upper ends of indie pricing, it does falter. I think you may be better off waiting for a 20 to 30% sale before grabbing this one, unless you're a BurgerTime fan already. It's worth noting, collectors, that BurgerTime Party is receiving a physical release, at least in America. I mentioned in my weekly physical releases video that I couldn't find any information on a European release, sadly, so it looks like burger fans in Europe may have to import. If you're in Europe and your mouth is watering for some burger stomping action, then I'll pop a link below as to where you can find it for an import. Also, I know many of you have been asking us for American links, and it seems that we've finally cracked it so our American friends can support us too. There's a link below as to where American people can buy it in America, and each purchase will help us out massively. Of course, only use it if you're going to be buying it anyways, no pressure or anything. Overall, BurgerTime is not a bad game at all. In fact, I'm reasonably happy with what I played. It's the classic arcade title brought to modern consoles with old gameplay as well as plenty of content for puzzle-like gameplay. There's a decent amount of content, although I'm not personally convinced of its merits as an actual party game. I think the longevity will be in the single player modes, and the multiplayer, more of a short side distraction rather than something you'll go back to time and time again. It has a serviceable if generic presentation, and the price is slightly higher than I think it should be.
And they forgot the D-pad!
But anyways, it's a decent time, bordering on good for what the package is right now, a 6.5 out of 10. Remember, I like to use the whole scale, so that's not necessarily a bad score. It's decent, bordering on good. Be sure to check out my weekly physical releases video where you can find a mention of this and all the other games that released this week for collectors. Don't forget we're giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite and Link's Awakening once we get to 50,000 subscribers. Watch Juan's review of the console for the details on that. And do check out my review of Super Robot Wars V, a delicious Switch import that every Switch owner needs. I'll see you guys over there, take care.